Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being patient. We appreciate it very much. I'm delighted to continue my trip through Asia, and on behalf of President Obama, it is an honor to represent the United States at the annual APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, and I'm delighted to be here with a member of the President's Cabinet, our United States Trade Representative, Ambassador Mike Froman. I want to thank Indonesia for its extraordinary welcome and wonderful hospitality over the day and a half that we've been here meeting already. And we thank them for their exceptional hosting of the EPIC conference. First, I'd like to say just a few words about the disappointing situation back home, which regrettably has kept the President of the United States from attending this year's APEC. I am not in partisan or elected politics anymore, but I did spend 28 plus years in the United States Senate. And I believe that those standing in the way in the other body of the Congress, standing in the way of reopening our government, need to think long and hard about the message that we send to the world when we can't get our own act together. As I've said many times, the values of great institutions like the United States Senate and the House is how we use them and what they represent to the world. And because these institutions are instruments of the people, they are broken only if we let them break. So I can tell you from experience that it is not only within Congress's power to prevent the shutdown, it is also within Congress's power to end it now, to end it today. And to all of our friends and foes watching around the world, let me be crystal clear. Do not mistake this momentary episode in American politics as anything less than a moment of politics, or anything more than a moment of politics. This is an example, really, of the robustness of our democracy, the capacity for any people to make their voices heard. Sometimes we may feel incorrectly, but nevertheless, it is a sign of the vibrancy and capacity of people to make their voices heard. The American people are remarkably strong and resilient people, and we all know that we will get beyond this moment, and we will get beyond it quickly, and in the end, nothing will change with respect to the issues that bring us here to the APEC conference. Nothing will diminish our commitment to Asia, the rebalance that President Obama is engaged in. We will continue to fulfill our responsibilities and our engagement around the world, and I think people are confident of that. For the moment, there are some things that do get affected, and that is regrettable. For instance, our security assistance for Israel, our closest ally in the Middle East, is being delayed. The new fiscal year started this last week, but because of the shutdown, some entities don't have the funding that they need, including supporting the peacekeeping mission in the Sinai at a time of growing unrest in a critical area. The U.S. Congress could fix this very quickly by reopening the U.S. government. Another example, the opportunity to engage diplomatically with Iran is critical to all of us in the world. And we wouldn't be where we are today if it weren't for the pressure that has been brought to bear by the sanctions. But right now, as a direct result of the shutdown, our Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Asset Control has been forced to furlough nearly all of its staff. So the world is watching to see whether a combination of tough sanctions and careful diplomacy can lead Iran to verifiably give up the chase for nuclear weapons. I think it's clear that we cannot lose this opportunity to moments of politics. that deprive us of the opportunity to embrace larger and more important goals. Of course, the situation back home, as I mentioned, has unfortunately kept President Obama from joining us here this weekend. I will be traveling at his request to Malaysia and to the Philippines in order to represent the United States. But I do want to make clear, none of what is happening in Washington diminishes one iota our commitment to our partners in Asia, including our efforts to promote trade and investment throughout the region. And this remains one of our top priorities, and I'm very, very pleased to be here together with two other members of the President's Cabinet, Ambassador Froman and Secretary of Commerce Pritzker, all of us engaged, as we will stay engaged, in this region. Why does that matter to us? APEC matters because it provides a very critical platform for government and private sector partners to be able to come together and break down the barriers to commerce. It is the way in which we open up opportunity for all of our citizens and begin to create rules of the road that bring our countries closer together. It is the way to create opportunity for all people. Today, even in our discussions, we had a talk about how we make this economic opportunity with equity, meaning that women and men all join together in their capacity to share opportunity in the workforce. It's a chance for us to come to a fast-growing region of the world, the fastest-growing region, and begin to talk about how we invest in each other and how we can better connect our economies one to the other, and how we create jobs and economic growth in all of our countries. That's why the United States works so closely with Indonesia and with other APEC countries. We work together on regulatory issues, on how we can make it easier for exporters to be able to cut tariffs and be able to move their goods to another country, how we sell goods and services in foreign markets. We work together on logistical issues like how you improve the performance and connectivity at every step along the supply chain of these goods. And all of this breaks down barriers between our countries and forges a stronger relationship which adds to the peace and security and prosperity, not just of the region, but of the rest of the world. We also work together on something that's very important to me personally, and that is promoting trade and investment in a way that can help our environment and the planet that we share and deal with the responsibilities of energy policy and of global climate change. For example, implementing tariff reductions on solar panels and other environmental goods will speed growth in profitable sector of green technology at a time when we see great environmental degradation and climate change that threatens the way of life in the Pacific region. Here in Bali this week, we will also continue to advance the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Ambassador Froman and I will represent the President at a meeting of the leaders of the TPP countries. And this agreement is a key part of our agenda in the Asia-Pacific and the President's jobs agenda at home. The relationship between the United States and the Asia-Pacific has really never been more important than it is now. President Obama began a rebalance to this region in the course of his first 4 years, and we intend to continue that over the course of his second term. It is very clear that most of the economic issues that we face today require the kind of cooperation that APEC makes possible. And the United States views APEC as its premier forum for economic and development issues in this region. So on behalf of President Obama, the United States looks forward in the next few days to a very productive dialogue and to a significant continued collaboration with Indonesia and with the rest of our APEC partners. Ambassador Froman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mr. Secretary, and good afternoon. As Secretary Kerry said, the United States has a strong commitment to APEC. We are a Pacific nation, and we always will be. This is the fastest growing region of the world, and our work here is critical to expanding exports and therefore to promoting growth, creating jobs, and strengthening the American middle class. APEC economies represent 55% of global GDP and about 45% of global goods and services trade. The United States exports more than $1 trillion of goods and services to APEC countries, and that's more than 50% of total U.S. exports. And those exports support millions of hardworking American jobs. Our capacity to grow our economy and to create jobs is integrally tied to the success of this region and our engagement with it. From a trade and investment perspective, APEC continues to be an incubator for policy innovation. As APEC economies cooperate to advance the value of our regional relationships, we realize ideas together that can boost the whole global trading system. APEC is on the leading edge of a number of global efforts to increase economic integration and opportunity. Together, we're working to improve supply chains. Together, we're working to fight new forms of protectionism, like localization, to implement strong regulatory policies that make it faster and more efficient to do business, and to build on the groundbreaking commitments in Honolulu in 2011 to advance trade in environmental goods. At the same time, APEC economies continue to play an important leadership role in the multilateral trading system. The WTO's Information Technology Agreement, for example, got its start at APEC. And now, long-standing APEC priorities have the potential to be enshrined in a global trading rules at the WTO. These include a win-win agreement on trade facilitation that will help developed and developing countries alike, as well as an expanded information technology agreement. On that front, I'm pleased to announce that there was a hopeful sign this week of our ability to work creatively together to solve problems and make progress in the WTO. We were happy to work with China and others to get the Information Technology Agreement talks back on track. After discussions this week, we're hopeful that resumption of formal plurilateral negotiations will begin as soon as possible. As I said in Geneva earlier this week, the United States is a strong supporter and believer in the World Trade Organization. Along with our APEC partners, we also believe that this is a crucial moment for that system. In 2 months, we'll be back in Bali for the 9th WTO Ministerial. If we succeed in producing a multilateral package on trade facilitation, agriculture, and development, it can provide impetus to the multilateral trading system. If we fail, it will be hard to see how we further that agenda. And we're pleased to see our APEC partners this week working together to push for a meaningful result at the WTO. Finally, of course, as the Secretary said, we spent a great deal of time this week working on TPP. The TPP countries are strongly committed to working to conclude negotiations this year. In Brunei in August and now in Bali, trade ministers have been charting a path forward on outstanding issues, particularly state-owned enterprises, intellectual property rights, environment, and market access, in order to move the negotiations toward completion. And the U.S. continues to work for a high level of ambition and high standards for TPP with all due speed. We've made significant progress this week, and we look forward to briefing the TPP leaders on Tuesday about that progress and getting their political level guidance to facilitate the conclusion of the negotiations. In sum, our work here this week will further U.S. engagement in the Asia-Pacific region and create new jobs and opportunities in the United States. Thank you.
The first question